Hello, everybody. It's really a great pleasure to be here. I will try to be super short and to the point, because I know everyone is probably full of knowledge after last 2 days. I wanted to start with a huge shout-out to organizers for those amazing 2 days, mostly because this conference is unique because of its focus on the practical advice it gives you, instead of just a theory of something new. And that's why I will try to talk to my experience about my path from being an individual contributor, increasing the impact, becoming a manager, what I learned, sometimes very hard way, on the way there as well. So what will I speak about is actually how you can grow your impact, how you can scale yourself up. And how? I hope I will approach it in 2 ways. First of all, I want to convince you that you can't do everything alone. Then, if we will agree that we need teams to work on interesting problems, I will try to share a couple of clues about how to build better engineering teams. And I will reference Project Oxygen, Google's research in this area. So let's start. Let's start from the question, who are you? If someone asks you, who are you, what's the first things that come to your mind? Is it programmer? Is it hacker? Is it team player? Because you have to be aware that how you think about yourself shapes how you act. And this is very important because as a software engineers, we tend to work in isolation and think about ourselves as individuals who can contribute something. If we do not shift our perception and if we do not start to be more aware of others around us, it's very hard to build greater things together. And why are you here? And probably the easiest answers are like, to learn about new things, to gain some practical advice from people who've been using given technologies. I hope also to network, so to build connections with other people who can at some point in your life help you advance your career. I will want to leave you with 2 basic things from my presentation, and that's one of them. I will use Jonathan Zunger's advice that engineering is not the art of building devices. It's not the art of writing software. It's actually the art of fixing problems. And if we want to fix problems, important problems, we have to start building understanding. We need to realize that problems involve people, and solving people's problems requires understanding people and understanding how those people interact. And it's very hard if you isolate yourself, if you have this idea and you close yourself up at home and code for a year. And another important question is, what is actually your goal? And one answer can be, I want to be a better software engineer. And that's a pretty good answer, but it's very generic. What does it really mean? What do you want to deliver? What do you want to be your legacy? I want you to think big. I want for you to think about things like, do you want to be a part of bringing self-driving cars to the planet? Do you want to find a cure for cancer? Things that really change how we live. Because the big, bold visionary goals are actually the only ones we're pursuing. We can be very busy our whole life doing irrelevant, unneeded things. At DeepMinds, we have this mission of solving intelligence. We want to use it to make the world a better place. And I think there are 2 very important parts to this mission. One is we want to advance technology. We want to be on a cutting edge. We always want to expand what is possible. But at the same time, we try to keep focus on how what we work on can be applied immediately, making the world a better place. The important thing about big goals is that they cannot be achieved alone. even if you think about people who actually are recognized for doing something alone, like climbing Mount Everest or sailing around the world alone, they usually have a large team of people backing them up on this adventure. It doesn't happen for them that they just one day decide to do it and they do it on their own. And for us, it means, everyone has their own limits. We have our limits. There is only that many lines of code each of us can write in our life. And there will be always someone who is faster to code. There will be always new technology that you will not know. There will be always something that will be restricting your sole capabilities. So, even more importantly, each of us have blind spots. We have things that we are good at, and we have things that we are not that good at. We have either preference for big, ambitious goals, vision, fast pace, achieving it, just running towards it. Or we may be much more focused down to details, caring for quality of the things that are being delivered and built. Asking the question, how are we going to maintain the software we write? And those different perspectives are very important to be brought together when we are working on something important, on some ambitious project. Just because of that, we can build something better. We will have diverse voices expressing their concerns and fighting for the right solution. So I hope that by now I convince you that we are better off working as a team instead of each individual. So how do we build a team if we have a group of sometimes very strong personalities, a couple of strong software engineers? And the truth is, building a team is not an easy task. It requires a totally different set of skills than what we are learning when we are software engineers and individual contributors. It's no longer about what I think and what is important for myself to achieve. It starts to be about the people around me. It starts to be about how we all prefer to work instead of how I prefer to work. It's not only about boosting my performance, it's about how everyone is empowered to work better. And the important part is, this will not happen overnight. So it doesn't happen that, one day you have a group of individuals and the next day you have a well-performing team. It will not also happen on its own. If you do not put a focus and effort into building a strong team, you will have a poorly performing team 9 out of 10 times. And there is finally the last thing that I think is in all of our minds, that when we start to be more focused on people, we start to be slightly less of a software engineers. I come to the stage to speak in front of all of you, very technical people, and I have in the back of my head, do you recognize that I am also a software engineer? Or do you think about me as a manager or someone who already converted to soft skills and will be just giving you some bullshit? So the truth is, and that's the second thing I want to take you from this presentation, when you are more of a people person, you are not less of a software engineer. What you are is actually much more powerful engineer who has much bigger impact on others, so therefore can deliver much bigger projects. And now from the theory of why we need teams to how actually build teams and how to manage people. Google is known for being a very tech-focused company. It's engineers who define how people work. So in 2002, Googlers have this idea. Maybe engineering managers are not needed. And the company got rid of engineering management at all. Like, uncontrolled experiment. The truth is, it failed. But still, people believed that, managers aren't that needed. To the extent that in 2008, another project was founded to check if we can get rid of managers, if managers are obsolete. And very quickly, they discovered that it's not true that managers are not needed. It's very true that engineers actually love having good managers. So they pivoted and started to ask and try to identify what actually makes a strong engineering manager. And that's the project Oxygen. That's been already open sourced, published. The Google research has been published. A lot of training materials have been published. I'll give you the link to the rework project at the end of the presentation. And I will very much encourage you all to try to learn more about it. In the next couple of slides, I will just give you a very quick overview of the 4 skills that were identified. That's just 4 out of 8 that actually there are, to give you a sense of what makes a good engineering manager. First of all, you need to focus on the team. That means creating the environment in which people can work together to achieve something. It has to be inclusive. It means it has to make everyone feel welcomed. People have different perspectives, and actually bringing those different perspectives into discussion is where our power lies. It's where we can learn more. It's where we can create better products. So creating a space where everyone can be themselves and have respect for others, it's important. You have to create trust in your team, because without trust, people will not take risks. And only when people take risks and get out of their comfort zone is where people start to be creative. And people try to get out of the boundaries of what's defined and what they feel OK with. And team is people. So if you start to manage people, you have to start treating them as human beings. You have to start to be aware that they are not resources you can reallocate between projects. They are people who care for their success, and you have to care for their success. You have to care for their well-being. You have to be aware that if there's some situation they have in their private life, it will affect how they work. You have to be there for them, so they will be there for you when you need them. And finally, not surprisingly, engineers actually love being coached, getting feedback about their performance, being supported in their career development. Each one of us wants to be a better version of ourselves. We want to be stretched in a safe environment. We want to be put in charge of something new that we are not comfortable with yet, but knowing that if something goes wrong, our manager will be there for us to save and help. In order to be a leader, you have to take ownership. And ownership is a very hard thing, because it means you have to start focusing on the goal. You have to start focusing on getting from where we are to where we want to be, and not that much on how you feel about certain things. As a good example, sometimes when you start to build larger team, you hire new people, or you work remotely for some other company, you get a lot of email conversations happening. And the natural reaction of people is to interpret things that are being sent in an email in a slightly harsh way. So if someone asks, "Are you sure about this design?" you immediately start feeling like they are questioning your competence. So a very natural reaction is quickly reply, "Yes, I have 10 years experience. I've done systems like this. I know what I'm doing." The truth is, this is breaking the trust you may need between you and this person. Maybe they are actually asking because they don't know. Maybe they want you to think about something that you haven't thought about. Maybe they have good intentions. It's just your interpretation that is breaking this. So instead of focusing on your feelings about something, you have to, as an owner of the project, you have to really think about what is our shared goal. Is it possible that this person actually has the same values and the same intention as I do have? As an owner, you cannot have excuses. It's no longer valid and no longer important to anyone that you have reasons why you failed. You may fail. Failure is totally OK. It's just failure is on you. It's for you to learn. But the success is the success of the team. Leaders have to be super humble people. It's not our achievement if we achieve something. It's actually the effort of all of us that we achieved it. Delegation. This one is tricky. Delegation is when you don't have enough hours in a day to do what you want to do, and you start to figure how to get more people helping you out. And it's very tricky because you should delegate anything you can, actually, to scale yourself up. But you should delegate in a smart way. So delegation is not for other people to do the things you don't want to work on. It's for other people to grow. So you have to figure out for what parts of the project you actually already have enough competence to safely delegate to someone else so they can learn the same skill as you already have. So you can support them on their way because you know how to do it. And it's to empower the team. So you have to control the goal. You have to, if you delegate, you have to delegate the task with some achievement in the end. But you cannot control the way someone gets to this achievement, just because they may have a different idea than you. And if you start to force your idea of execution, it starts to be a micromanagement, and people really, really hate that. Communication, the hardest part. How do we speak with people? And actually, communication is not about speaking as much as about listening. So if you don't stop telling people what they are supposed to do and showing how smart you are, but instead, if you start listening and being aware of their concerns, their solutions, that's where communication starts. And as a team leader, you also have to remember that you will have access to a lot of information your team will not know about. So it's also about making sure that everyone has the information they need in order to be able to make rational decisions. Communication is also not only between you and your team. You are not operating in vacuum. As a team leader, you are responsible for making sure that other teams understand where you are, for understanding that you know where the goals of the company are, and making the alignment when needed. And finally, it's about making decisions where there are hard decisions to be made. Sometimes it means closing the project you are working on, because that's ultimately the only good decision you can make at this point. It's also about owning those decisions. So one day, it's not someone else's, it's your decision that got us where we are. And dream big. Don't forget that you have only one life. If you want to achieve something, figure out every day if you are making progress toward your goal. But start small, with small steps. It's not about the title you are carrying with your name. It's not about being named the leader to be a leader. Sometimes leaders are people who are standing on a side. Sometimes leaders are the people who are facilitating the process. They are there to help others to grow and be better versions of themselves. So, not all of us will be CTOs tomorrow. At least I think, not all of us. But think about how you can start lead more in your current project, how you can improve the communication, how you can build more trust in the team, how you can probably delegate something, help someone else grow, deliver some feedback so someone can grow. And shift the focus from yourself to others. It's ultimately not about how you feel, it's about how productive and how achieving we all can be. And also accept that you will fail. If we learn something new, we will fail, we will triple on the way. But this is the only way we can improve. So accept the failure, embrace the failure, ask people for feedback, incorporate feedback, grow, be a better version of yourself, deliver on big, bold things that this planet needs. And read a lot. I recommend a lot of books in the subject that will just help you get out of your comfort zone and be better yourself, starting today. If you would like to learn more about DeepMind, there is a site. I'm also happy to chat afterwards. And thank you.